Okay. Sorry for all the noise. I've been schmooving around. I was schmoov. You might hear more schmoov noises because my back hurts really bad because I'm old and decrepit. Because I'm so old. So I went to the beach and the beach made me old, guys. Let's see who joins. Let's see who joins. Yeah. I won't explain. I won't explain like literally anything because none of you deserve an explanation. It's almost time for bed. That isn't true. I don't go to bed this early. What the fuck are they on about? My phone was like, "Oh my god, it's almost bedtime. Almost bedtime." It's like that's not even true. I don't even go to bed till 12. It's no, I'm an adult. I don't have a bedtime. I'm an adult. So I don't have bedtime. That's what they say. You know, if I wanted to, I could get horribly drunk tonight and have to go into work tomorrow because I'm an adult, and as an adult, I can do this, and that's okay, and it's healthy. We'll give everyone a few more minutes before I frickin' start because I'm really excited for this actually. That's why I'm covering this despite being so sleepy, so exhausted. Up, spoilers, but no spoilers. It says one person here, and I don't know if it's lying to me. Maybe I'm the one person. Maybe I'm here. It's actually Vin Vogo. That's who it is. It's by Vin Vogo. Yeah, Vagugu, yeah. He goes by many names, many names. He goes I'll be really upset if the person who recommended this to me isn't here tonight. This will be a very sad moment. Very, very sad moment. But I'll let people pile in. This gives me more time for my what's it called to heat up anyway. I have a heating pad for my I have a heating pad for my blanket. I have a heating pad for my back because my back hurts. Because despite being weak as shit, they love making me do all like the heavy lifting um at work. So that's always fun. So my back like always hurts because of that. So I like use a heat pad. I use the heating pad whenever I'm being a baby. So like most of the time. All right. It says we have. Yeah, I do. I do. I do. I do. Okay. Well, let's get started. Because I don't know how long this. How long is this? Oh, it's not that long. Okay. So you can see where I got the fucking stream thing from, obviously. Um, but this is called um Book of Lamentations. It is an essay or like an article that a good friend of mine, June, recommended to me. And June's my other half. My soul is split into like three, and June carries part of that. June carries part of that. Take that as you will. But yeah, and I'm not going to explain what this is about because I think it's more fun. Um, for those observant people among you, you might already understand what it's about. But for those unobservant among you, you get no marks. You don't get any marks. Marks doesn't like you. So let's start. A new dystopian novel in the classic mode takes the form of a dictionary of madness. The best dystopian literature, or at least the most effective, manages to show us a hideous and contorted future, resisting the temptation to point fingers and invent villains. This is one of the major flaws in George Orwell's 1984 when O'Brien laughingly expounds on his vision of a boot stamping on a human face forever. He starts to acquire the ludicrousness of a Bond villain. He may as well be a cartoon, one of the crusty camp counselors in The Simpsons, raising a glass to evil. Orwell's satire Stalinism, or Margaret Atwood's on the religious right in The Handmaid's Tale, tend to let our present world off the hook a little by comparison. More subtle works like Huxley's Brave New World are far more effective. His controller, when interrogated, doesn't burst out in maniacal laughter and start twiddling his mustache. He explains in quite reasonable terms that the dystopia he lives in is the best way to ensure the happiness of all. And he means it. Everything's broken, but it's not anyone's fault. It's terrifying because it's so familiar. Great dystopia isn't so much fantasy as a kind of estrangement or dislocation from the present, the ability to stand outside time and see the situation in its full hideousness. The dystopian novel doesn't necessarily have to be a novel. Maybe the greatest piece of dystopian literature ever written is Theodore Adorno's Minima Moralia, a collection of observations and aphorisms penned by the philosopher while in exile in America during and after the Second World War. Even if, like I do, you disagree enthusiastically with its blatant condemnation of all degenerated popular culture, it's hard not to be convinced that what we are living is damaged life. It's not an argument so much as a revelation. In Adorno's bitterly lucid critique, everything we take for granted is suddenly revealed in all its hideousness. The world Adorno lives in isn't quite the same as ours. He's coming at his subjects from a reflex angle. They're a bunch of average Joes and Janes. He's a misanthropic German cultural theorist with preternaturally spherical head, but his insights are all the more relevant because of this. Something has gone terribly wrong in the world. We are living the wrong life, a life without any real fulfillment. The newly published DSM-5 is a classic dystopian novel in this mode. Where does this get reference? Oh, this is from the Minima Moralia. The libidimal achievements demanded of an individual behaving as healthy in body and mind are such as can be performed only at the cost of the profoundest mutilation. The regular guy, the popular girl, have to repress not only their desires and insights, but even the symptoms that in bourgeois times resulted from repression. Who is Theodore Adorno? Oh, he's part of the Frankfurt School. That's interesting. It's also not exactly a conventional novel. Its full title is an unwieldy mouthful. Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 5th edition. The author or authors write under the ungainly nom de plume of the American Psychiatric Association, although a list of enjoyably silly pseudonyms is provided inside, including Rachel Rubius, Stepik, Dan Blazer, and the superbly alliterative Susan Sweeto. The thing itself is on the cumbersome side, over 2 inches thick and with 1,000 pages. It's unlikely to find its way to many beaches. Not that this should deter anyone. Within is a brilliantly realized satire, at turns luridly absurd, chillingly perspective, and profoundly disturbing. I own a copy of the DSM. Fun fact. Fun fact about me. If the novel has an overbearing literary influence, it's undoubtedly George Louis Borges. The American Psychiatric Association takes his technique of lifting quotes from or writing faux serious reviews for entirely imagined books and pushes it to the limit. Here we have an entire book, something that purports to be a kind of encyclopedia of madness, a library of babble for the mind, containing everything that can possibly be wrong with a human being. Perhaps as an attempt to ward off the uncommitted reader, the novel begins with a lengthy account of the system of classifications used, one with an obvious debt to the Borgian celestial imperium of benevolent knowledge, in which animals are exhaustively classified according to such sets as those belonging to the emperor, those that are at a distance resemble flies, those that are included in this classification. So, for anyone who hasn't caught on, this is going to be a critique of the DSM. And why am I reading this? Why is this interesting to me? As you many of you will already know, I am not really a fan of a lot of psychology. I it's more complex than just saying it's all bad. Some of it I think obviously can help, but it's not that it can't help. There are a lot of things that end up being harmful towards you that can, in some ways, actually help you. That isn't very controversial. It also there's a very particular thing of what is help? That's the question. For me, I've been told all my life by people who definitively hurt that, well, they were helping me. They were just trying to help me. And help isn't a neutral thing. You don't get to Um, the people who get to determine what is help and what isn't help are really powerful. Um, you can take an example that is probably mostly among leftists uncontroversial. That of the prison system. Um, some people probably do genuinely think the prison system, in the way it currently exists, is helping people. Um, and they can think that. They're fine to think that. Um, but that being a position, perhaps a predominant position, um, and that like that has power. It has like genuine power, and I think people need to realize that help isn't neutral. Yeah, it's not just that someone isn't helping; it's that there are certain things that are considered help, that are to me quite unhelpful, as it were. Just as Borges' system groups animals by singly aleatory characteristics. Aleatory? Pretty sure it's aleatory, but I forget what it means. Aleatory definition. Depending on the throw of a dice or on random chance.
Aleatory. Aleatory.
Oh, my headphones aren't connected. Wait a second. You guys can hear me okay, right? Oh, wait, yeah, you can, because WAG responded. I just realized. Hold on. Let me connect my headphones so I can hear things. Okay. I should be able to hear things. Yep. You see many things. Just as Borges' system groups animals by seemingly aleatory characteristics, entirely divorced from their actual biological attributes, DSM-5 arranges its various strains of madness solely in terms of the behaviors exhibited. Wait, am I playing music? Wait, am I... Oh, I think you're talking about in real life. Okay. This is a recurring theme in the novel, while any consideration of the mind itself is entirely absent. In its place were given diagnoses such as frauderism, oppositional defiant disorder, and caffeine intoxication disorder. That said, these classifications aren't arranged at random. Rather, they follow a statedly progressive progression comparable to that of Dante's Divine Comedy, rising from the infernal pit of the body and its weaknesses, intellectual disabilities, motor tics, through our purgatorial interactions with the outside world. Tobacco use, erectile dysfunction, kleptomania, and finally arriving in the limpid blue heavens of the libidinal selves, delirium, personality disorders, sexual fetishism. It's unusual and at times frustrating in its postmodern knowingness, but what is being told is first and foremost a story. This is a story without any of the elements that are traditionally held to constitute a setting or a plot. A few characters make an appearance, but they are nameless, spectral shapes that wander in and out of view as the story progresses, briefly embodying their various illnesses before vanishing as quickly as they came. Figures comparable to the cacophony of voices in The Wasteland or the anonymously universal figures of Jose Saramago's Blindness. A sufferer of major depression and of hypochondriasis might eventually be revealed to be the same person, but for the most part, the boundaries between diagnoses keep the characters apart from one another. There are only flashes. On one page we meet a hoarder, on the next a trichotillomaniac. He builds enormous stacks of worthless objects. She idly pulls out her pubic hairs while watching television. The two are never allowed to meet and see if they can work through their problems together. This is not to say there is no setting, no plot, no characterization. These elements are woven into the encyclopedia form with extraordinary subtlety. The setting of the novel isn't a physical landscape, but a conceptual one. Unusually for what purports to be a dictionary of madness, the story proper begins with a discussion of neurological impairments, autism, Rett's disorder, intellectual disability. The scene this prologue sets is one of a profoundly bleak view of human beings, one in which we hobble across an empty field, crippled by blind and mechanical forces, whose workings are entirely beyond our understanding. This vision of humanity's predicament has echoes of Samuel Beckett at some of his more nihilistic moments, except that Beckett allows his tramps to speak for themselves, and when they do, they're often quite cheerful. The sufferers of DSM-5, meanwhile, have no voice. They're only interrogated by a pitiless system of categorizations, with no ability to speak back. As you read, you slowly grow aware that the book's real object of fascination isn't the various sicknesses described in its pages, the sickness inherent in their arrangement. This is true. Very curious at where he's going to go with this, but is it a he? I forgot the author's name. Let's find out. Are you a boy or are you a girl? Let's find out. Sam, this doesn't answer my question. Okay, we'll just assume that we'll assume that they're a Redditor. So no, I'll call them Reddit from they got Reddit is their pronoun. Reddit is their pronoun. They go by Reddit self. Yeah, Reddit, yeah, exactly. Red/dit. Yeah. Estelle, I think you'd like this. I think you'd like this, Estelle. I'm pretty sure you'd like this. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Who, after all, would want to compile an exhaustive list of mental illnesses? The opening passages of DSM-5 give us a long history of the purported previous editions of the book, and the endless revisions and fine-tunings that have gone into the work. This mad project is clearly something that its authors are fixated on to a somewhat unreasonable extent. In a retrospectively predictable, ironic twist, this precise tendency is outlined in the book itself. The entry for obsessive compulsive disorder, with poor insight, describes the taxonomical obsession in deadpan tones, repetitive behavior, the goal of which is to prevent some dreaded event or situation. Our narrator seems to believe that by compiling an exhaustive list of everything that might go askew in the human mind, this wrong state might somehow be overcome or averted. References to compulsive behavior throughout the book repeatedly refer to the fear of dirt in someone with an obsession about contamination. The tragic closure comes when we're told the individual does not recognize that the obsessions or compulsions are excessive or unreasonable. This mad project is so overwhelming that its originator can't even tell that they've subsumed themselves within its matrix. We're dealing with a truly unreliable narrator here. Not one that misleads us about the course of events. The narrator is compulsive, they do have poor insight, but one whose entire conceptual framework is radically off kilter. As such, the entire story is a portrait of the narrator's own particular madness. With this realization, DSM-5 starts to enter the realm of the properly dystopia. This madness does lead to startling moments of humor. One vignette describes in deadpan tones a scene at once touchingly pathos-laden and more than a little creepy. He rubs his genitals against the victim's thigh and buttocks. While doing this, he fantasizes an exclusive, caring relationship with the victim. The entry on caffeine intoxication disorder informs of every appearance of seriousness, The diagnostic criteria include recent consumption of caffeine along with 1. Restlessness, 2. Nervousness, 3. Excitement. There are occasionally what seem to be surreal parodies of religious dietary regulations. Infants and younger children eat paint, plaster, string, hair, or cloth. Older children may eat animal droppings, sand, insects, leaves, or pebbles. What the levity of these moments masked, though, is the sense of loneliness that saturates the work. The narrative voice of the book affects a tone of clinical detachment, when in which drinking coffee and paranoid-type schizophrenia can be discussed with the same flat tone. Under the pretense of dispassion, this voice embodies a whole raft of terrifying preconceptions. Just like the neurological disorders that appear at the start of the book, mental illnesses appear like lightning bolts, with all their aura of divine randomness. Even when the etiologies are mentioned, they're invariably held to be either genetic or refer to other illnesses such as substance abuse disorders. At no point is there any sense that madness might be socially informed. The form it takes might be a reflection of the influence and pressures of the world that surrounds us. Yeah. I actually really like this so far. I don't have much to say because this person is just spitting. They literally are just spitting right now. So I kind of don't have much to say to this, but I can set my thoughts at the end if I don't have much more to say. But otherwise, I'm fine just reading this because this is like awesome and amazing. I'll probably by probably I mean I will. I'll post it in chat and in my Discord because this is like an excellent article. Like actually really good. The idea emerges that every person's illness is somehow their own fault, that it comes from nowhere but themselves, their genes, their addictions, and their inherent human insufficiency. To enter a strange shadow world, or for someone to engage in prostitution, isn't the result of intersecting environmental factors, gender relations, economic class, family, and social relationships, but a symptom of conduct disorder, along with lying, truancy, and running away. A mad person is like a faulty machine. The pseudo objective gaze only sees what they do, rather than what they think or how they feel. A person who shits on the kitchen floor because it gives them erotic pleasure, and a person who shits on the kitchen floor to ward off the demons in the cupboard are both shunted into the diagnostic category of incopresis. It's not just that their thought process don't matter. It's as if they don't exist. The human being is a web of flesh spun over a void. With this radical misreading, the American Psychiatric Association is following something of a precedent in the psychological profession. Sigmund Freud himself performs a similar feat of Austrania in his 3 essays on the theory of sexuality, in which he appears to take the position of an alien observer of everyday affairs, noting that the kiss is held in high sexual esteem among many nations, in spite of the fact that the parts of the body involved do not form part of the sexual apparatus, but constitute the entrance to the digestive tract. If you're going to make a properly objective study of human behavior, to some extent, you have to disavow your own humanity. You have to ask, why kissing? Why do people press their mouths up against each other? In DSM-5, we can see a reverse mirror image of this kind of estrangement. Boyd retreats to a position of inhuman detachment to ask question. Here, the narrator does it to issue instructions. The word disorder occurs so many times that it almost detaches itself from any real signification, so that the implied existence of an ordered state against which a disorder can be measured nearly vanishes, is almost forgotten. Throughout the novel, this ordered normality never appears except as an inference. It is the object of a subdued, hopeless yearning, with normality as a negatively defined and nebulously perfect ideal. Anything and everything can then be condemned as a deviation from it. Even an outburst of happiness can be diagnosed as a manic episode. And And then there are the not otherwise specified personality disorder categories. Here, all the pretensions to objectivity fall apart, and the novel's carefully warped imitation of scientific categories fades into examination of petty uh, viciousness. Sorry, I'm tired. I might struggle to read some words immediately. So yeah, a personality disorder does not a disorder not otherwise specified is the diagnosis for anyone whose behavior do not meet the full criteria for any one personality disorder, but that together cause clinically significant distress, e.g., social or occupational. It's hard not to be reminded of a few people who've historically caused social or occupational distress. I don't believe that people really exist. Any radical call for their emancipation is just sickness at its most annoying. And then, in reference to the manic episodes, we're told this consists of a prolonged period during which the sufferer's mood may be described as euphoric, unusually good, cheerful, or high, and in which the person may simultaneously start extensive conversations with strangers in public places, or more distressingly, admittedly, a salesperson may telephone strangers at home in the early morning hours to initiate sales. If there is a normality here, it's a state of near catatonia. DSM-5 seems to have no definition of happiness other than the absence of suffering. The normal individual in this book is tranquilized and bovine-eyed, mutely accepting everything in a sometimes painful world without ever feeling much in the way of anything about it. The vast absurd excesses of passion that form the raw matter of art, literature, love, and humanity are too distressing. It's easier to stop being human altogether, to simply plod on as a heaped collection of diagnoses, the body vaguely attached. For all the subtlety of its characterization, the book doesn't just provide a chilling psychological portrait, it conjures up an entire world. The clue is in the name. On some level, we're to imagine that the American Psychiatric Association is a body with real powers. The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual is something that might actually be used, and that its caricature of our inner lives could have serious consequences. Sections like those on personality disorders offer a terrifying glimpse of a futuristic system of repression, one in which deviance isn't furiously stamped out like it is in Orwell's unsubtle Oceania, pathologized instead. Here there's no need for any rats. The diagnostician can honestly believe she's doing the right thing. It's all in the name of restoring the sick to health. DSM-5 describes a nightmare society in which human beings are individuated, sick, and alone. For much of the novel, the narrator of the story is describing is its own solitude, its own inability to appreciate other people, its own overpowering desire for death. The real horror lies in the world that could produce such a voice. This was amazing. This was great. It okay. Well, that's fine, Ninja, because I was gonna post it anyway and ignore your don't. So either way, it's good. This was actually great. I loved this. Um, fuck. Um, am I too tired to talk about this? Am I too tired to form coherent thoughts? I was struggling to read, as you saw. I mean, as you heard. Um, okay. I have a way to broach this. So, for any person who knows me, um, I've had experience with the mental health sector. I've talked about it before. It's something I'm not a big fan of. Um, and so, in an interesting vein to this, um, I still don't really have a diagnosis for what's been going on with me for most of my life. Um, Something's been going on. Things happen. Stuff happens. Uh, but no diagnosis really ever sticks or fits. Right now, I am currently classified as bipolar. Um, but it's just like it's no. The answer is no. Uh, they basically only had me that because the only other thing they wanted to diagnose me as was with BPD, which also, in a lot of ways, doesn't entirely fit. Um, there's a lot of stuff. It's really hard. Um, when you talk to people, they want to know what's wrong with you, and they want to fix you. They want to fix you. Um, they do have to imagine. I've been to therapy, and I'm gonna be honest. The kind of therapy that I had to deal with really sucks. It's not fun. Not that necessarily therapy is supposed to be fun, but what I mean is it's unhelpful. They kind of it basically presumes that you're not functional from the outset. You can't be functional, and that's why you're in therapy. You can't actually function at all because to function is to not need the therapy. So, if you have any problems, um, other than ones that are related to your basic level of functioning, and I'm talking about extremely basic, therapy doesn't entirely answer them, and it kind of can't. I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm saying, for people like me, for the people I knew growing up, it cannot help us in the way it tells us it can. It can't. It just isn't. I'm just. It isn't possible. Um, the best you can hope for is that that person figures stuff out on their own and learns how to handle themselves in whatever situations they find themselves in on their own. And that is the thing. The therapist isn't doing any work. It will be the client, the person they're doing. It's not even like in the sense of um, a relationship I actually find quite helpful, that of a emancipatory teacher and their student. But the therapist isn't there to emancipate you, unlike in the example I like, in the example of the rentiers talking of the teacher. It's completely different. It is, but yeah, but yeah, that is what I will say. I actually might talk about this more. This article is amazing, so great. Before I go, I'm gonna post it. Um, not just in Discord chat, but also not just in YouTube chat, but in my Discord as well. This will be posted because I genuinely think that this is so amazing. Let me make sure. But yeah, my audio's not on. There we go. And we post it in my Discord. Record of inscription devices. Okay, we're gonna post that. So in articles, so there will be a tab called articles covered on stream, and this will be in there. I need to actually post two more, but I haven't, so I need to. Before I also go, I'm going to actually post this in psychology channel, in philosophy channel, in Sunday's Discord, in President Sunday's Discord, and also, I actually think in the QC. I should also post it in QC. There we go. Now, thank you all for joining me. This will be the end because I'm very tired. I'm very exhausted. I worked today, and you guys know normally that I don't stream on days that I work, but I decided that this was actually worth it, and I was actually completely right. This actually gives me so much to talk about, so much to go through, and so yeah, and so everybody, have a good rest of your night. If you want to message me, you can still message me. I'll still be up for a bit, but I might be a bit out of it. So sorry if I'm a bit slow or a bit incoherent at first. If I think I am, I will probably re-message you in the morning. But either way, I dropped my phone. Sorry about that. But either way, have a good night. See you all.